keep this in their pocket, and they'll bump up against people's purses or wallets to potentially steal their card information, right? And from there, they can then go take it, use it at the gas station. They'll do research on the person, figure out their zip code, where they're residing, and then charge it to credit charges, so where they just only have to use the zip code and stuff. So this is how quick an attacker could steal your credit card.
Welcome back to Tax D Wolf Academy. I'm your host here, Joseph Griffin, the Tax D Wolf. And today we have a super special guest. All right, we have an undefeated UFC champion, soon to be champion in the building. All right, we got Sedric Louissaint in the building. So UFC, man, you got cybersecurity specialist. You had some other entrepreneurial things that you were doing, man. Tell the people who you are.
Well, hey everybody, my name is Sedric Louissaint. I like to think of myself as a normal guy, but it's others who tell me, that the things that I do, they really wish they can do. But who I am, I'm a fighter, I'm a cybersecurity specialist, father, husband, I'm a lot of things.
All right, straight up, all around. So how did you get into UFC? Like what age was it, and like what really led to that?
Well, first off, I gotta correct you, and it's okay because you don't know. It's not UFC. A lot of people have that notion that, oh, you do UFC? No, UFC is a promotion. I do mixed martial arts. But the goal is to get to the UFC and become a UFC world champion. But how I got into MMA, I got into MMA right after high school because I graduated at 17, and I was supposed to go. I wrestled in high school. I boxed in high school. I really thought I was going to chase my wrestling dream to be an Olympic world champion. I'm going to go to college, go train at the collegiate level, then try to go for an Olympic gold medal. That was my goal as a kid, but I graduated at 17. My mother kept me home. She didn't allow me to go away because I was still technically a minor. So she wouldn't sign for me to go to none of these universities out of state because there weren't really any Florida State, wrestling programs that are like D1 or D2 or anything like that. I wanted to go away to a college out of state, and tuition was pretty expensive. The scholarship money was there, but there was still a gap. My mother saw that I might fall into the same trap that my older brother did. He went away to school, racked up a ton of debt. He didn't finish at the time. He eventually went back and finished, but it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. It's a debt trap, and a lot of people end up falling into that debt trap. But I'm thankful now that my mother actually did that, because I was angry at first, because that was my dream. So I stayed here back in Deltona, and I went to state college. And while I was going to state college, I had that itch to compete still. I wasn't really doing anything. So I saw some kids that were in this area that were doing MMA, and I was always interested. I was a fighter growing up. I used to be the kid that was scared to fight. Now people are scared to fight me. So I found this gym called Sosa Martial Arts, so where a couple of my friends were training at. They invited me, and that's how I got my start. And I gave it a shot for a little bit back in 2014. I really didn't dedicate the time, attention, and resources that I really needed to then. I lost my first 2 amateur fights then, and I took a 7-year hiatus. During that hiatus, I had gotten the mother of my child pregnant, so I kind of had to pivot into something that was going to be a little bit more lucrative for me, and that's when I found out about cybersecurity, watching TV on the couch, and I set down that path for 7 years. And after I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in cybersecurity, I still had that itch to compete. I still felt like I was going to regret when I got older that I didn't put the time, attention, and resources that it truly needed to be put in to be successful in MMA. So I gave it another shot back in 2019 after finding a new group of individuals that helped me get on the right track, and I've been at it ever since. I'm on a 7-8 fight win streak right now, and taking it to the top.
Yo, so undefeated.
Undefeated as a pro. Yes,
undefeated as a pro. Okay, that's awesome. So you started out wrestling, actually, then eventually got into MMA, and along that time, you found out about cybersecurity. So for the people here who don't quite understand, what exactly is cybersecurity?
So, cybersecurity is protecting the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data and services that organizations provide. So, a more layman's term analogy would be like, so for availability, when you want to spend your money on your credit card, you want to make sure that you can spend that money. If a hacker is able to knock down the system and you can't pay for something, you're screwed out of luck. So that's one example. You have confidentiality. So let's an example for like the everyday consumer. Let's say you got them little private pics that you might have received in your phone or whatever, and you don't want none of that to get out there. So protect and putting controls into place to protect that confidentiality. That's what really makes up cybersecurity on all three fronts.
So asking for a friend, if I do have those pics and stuff, and I might have some things on my phone, what are some things that I can do, like that, or the average person can do to like kind of protect themselves?
One, get them off your phone, put them on an offline backup, like a hard drive or something that's not connected to any cloud services. And what I mean by cloud services, I'm talking about somebody else's computer. A lot of people in everyday life don't realize that they're sharing a lot of their data with a bunch of different services and organizations. I'll just put iCloud on the spot. That's an example of a cloud provider for Apple products. So if you have iCloud configured to back up your stuff, it's being backed up on servers all across the world to give you availability wherever you're at. So to protect yourself, I really would recommend getting it off your phone, putting it on an offline backup if that's something you want to keep as a keepsake, because otherwise at any point in time someone is able to find a way into your phone or to trick you, they'll get access to it. Or if they're able to get access to the server that holds the material, and if that material isn't encrypted in the proper manner, and that's not even on you, that's on the organization that has your data. So you don't even know what they're doing. They could be messing up with their security posture and exposing your data out there to other individuals, and it has been shown that has happened time and time again.
So you sound very well versed in this, and I'm just curious, how many you have to get certifications, you have to go to school for it, how long did it take, and like what's that process look like?
So there's a big misconception out there that you need to go to school to get in the cybersecurity field. And that's truly not the case, because I've worked side by side with guys who don't even have a high school degree, no certifications at all. You don't need certifications, you don't need a degree. What a degree or a certification does is like a little badge of honor. So you could think of it as like a Boy Scout badge. It just shows that you completed a program, like a third party vetted you through whatever program, but at the end of the day, those don't prove that you actually have the skills to apply those concepts in a practical environment in the real world. And you get that by actually understanding what the theories that you're learning about and how does that actually come into context in the situation that you're in, because you have to be able to do that critical thinking to be a professional and consult an organization to be confident in your decisions that you make.
Gotcha. So with everything that we have going on right now, we got cybersecurity, we got AI woman making more money on OnlyFans than real women. We got like a lot of things going on right now.
Yep.
Is cybersecurity getting harder and harder as time goes on with all the new technology and stuff coming out?
Cybersecurity since the beginning of time has always been a cat and mouse game. Things are, like you said, things are always changing. New things are coming out, old things are getting phased out because of either just new developments in technology, or there was flawed designs in the technology when it was first built. Cybersecurity, it is getting harder per se because there's a big gap in qualified professionals to help fight against this battle right now. You know, in America, there's nobody forcing you to go and learn something. You have to go out and do it yourself. And some of these other countries, they're forcing these kids to learn about this since they are in the young school age. I'm talking elementary all the way up to high school and college. And some are the top cream of the crop, are handpicked and are told that you are going to do this job for us almost for the rest of your life. in some of those dictatorship countries like North Korea and stuff. And we're fighting those types of guys and external threats from external countries all the time. So I'm combating against like Russia, North Korea, a lot of these advanced persistent threats that are out there. It's another term that you will hear in the cybersecurity industry. Those are the people who actually understand the whole landscape as a whole to be cyber weapons. Most of those advanced persistent threats are either organized crime groups or military installations for the government.
Wow. So you said something pretty big there. There's a big need. Like there's actually like real huge demand for more people to get certified in this industry. So with that being said, why might one get into this industry? Like, is it pretty lucrative? You know, like, is the pay pretty decent, above average? Would you say?
I would say it pays pretty decent. You know, the average salary in most cybersecurity positions are over 6 figures, so that puts you in the top 15% of earners, at least in America. Across the world, that potentially could put you in the top 1%, and that's just working one job, really. In this industry, there's a lot to it. If you're in it for just the money, it's not for you. It's not for you because you'll burn out. You have to actually have the curiosity and the willingness to learn. You have to like technology, dealing with people, because cybersecurity is a team sport. You're not in this by yourself. You're working together with various stakeholders in your organization to help address the problems at hand.
Okay. So you can become one of the 1% of Americans. I want to say last I checked make over what, 400,000? 1% of Americans make that?
I think as of 2021, it's just about like 800,000. It's at 800,000 for the top 1%. Yeah.
So, okay, inflation.
Yeah.
So you got this little device sitting over here, and you know, we're talking about like pictures and stuff. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. This device right here is a well-known hacking tool that's out there. It's been making its rounds on the internet. This one's pretty naked. I don't have any of my attachments on it, so I can do like little basic level attacks with this. This flipper is basically known as what's called a Swiss Army knife of hacking. So depending on the engagement you're on, what your goals are, you can use this. You can program this to kind of cause some mayhem. Primarily today, I was going to show you guys a few tricks on how someone could just bump into you and steal your credit card number.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Just with that device.
Just with this device.
And is that like easy to get? Like, is that
device,
like Amazon that can ship it to your door same day?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
You can buy this online. I bought this online. It's like I think it's like $170. But at the end of the day, you have to have the technical competency to be able to work this device. If you don't, then you're not. It's gonna be just a paperweight.
So you can take credit card info, key fobs too, clone like key fobs.
I can
stuff
clone
like
it. I can write it to something else. I can take a credit card, write it to a new credit card. I can intercept. I can intercept your garage as you're closing your garage. I could be hiding right behind you. Intercept the signal. You leave.
Wow.
Open it. I could jam your cameras if you got Ring cameras and stuff like that. I could jam them up so I can break into your house, and you never know. So there's a lot of different use cases. I'm giving you use cases of some of like what some of the malicious guys are doing. I don't do none of that stuff. I use this actually for pen testing engagements to help out. Like, let's say if someone is using a computer with a wireless mouse or something, or wireless keyboard, I could inject keystrokes into your computer to issue commands as if it was you, and you wouldn't even know it. I mean, Your computer, you don't even know it.
Yeah, so we're gonna blur that out. So I don't want, I don't want too many people buying that device, man, following me home and all that.
Yeah, they can buy the device, but again, if they don't have the technical competency, they're not gonna be able to do nothing with it.
Okay, so we got cybersecurity, pretty lucrative, and then you started to do some more like entrepreneurial type things. So can you tell us a little bit about what else did you have going on as far as like, you know, the rental cars? Not Turo, right?
I started my own platform. You know, so I was working in cybersecurity, making some good money when I still am. And I was like, I need to find something to do with this money. I was already investing in real estate. I actually ran into you at the multifamily mindset conference, and I started out investing in apartment complexes after that, little smaller complexes. And then I figured, hey, I want to see how could I get a little bit more return, more bang for my buck. So I decided to start a rental company, a luxury rental company. After some time, I saw a guy on Instagram made an ad, and it made pretty much sense. I was driving luxury cars for free, so I went out, started with 2 cars at first, and I was on Turo, but Turo was taking too much, and their customer service sucked. And just so many horror stories with like dealing with insurance claims and stuff, and they weren't really doing their part, I felt. So I figured I can do majority of the administrative stuff on my own and keep more of the profits in house. So I started my own rental company, Show Up Show Out Rentals, early 2021. I actually just shut that business down a couple months ago because people, they do not respect your stuff. I'll tell you that right now. And just the individuals that I guess that I was renting to, I wasn't vetting them that well. They were crashing cars. I got lawsuits I'm dealing with now because of that. But all in all, it was a good learning experience. I wish I would have put majority of that money that I invested in all those cars into more real estate like I should have. But you live and you learn. And I'm actually glad I learned that lesson now than later on. But yeah, I started the rental business. I just shut that down. It was good. I was up to 13 cars at one point. It was nice driving luxury cars, whatever car that I wanted to. And then I just transitioned to what I know best, cybersecurity. So I was like, I'm gonna stick to what I know. I started a cybersecurity mentorship and training program because I got a lot of individuals around me who are always asking, how did you do this? How did you get all those cars? How you get these houses? How you get these apartment complexes? I tell them in cybersecurity, they can go study up and get into it, but there's just so much information out there that if you don't have the right guardrails to help you navigate this information, that you'll stay stuck, lost in the sauce all day long. So what I did was I started a program to help people navigate all the information, to identify what career path within cybersecurity that they would be most interested in that aligns with their strengths as they're coming with the program. So we come up with personalized mentorship and career plans for those individuals.
So you talked about, getting certifications and everything. It's actually not that hard. You don't really have to go to school. How long does it take? You mentioned you have a program, but how long does it take for somebody to get their first certification and actually kind of hit the ground running?
Honestly, it's up to the individual. Every individual is different. Some people can study something and they get it right the first time. It sticks with them. Some people, they have to read something 10 times before it even sticks. But on average, after about 3 months of studying all the core foundations, there's multiple certifications that you should be able to sit for and get if you're studying the right things. Me personally, it took me 2 weeks to get my first cybersecurity certification, then another week to get the next one. And then I was addicted. I was like, oh, there's information out here. Let me just actually study the curriculum needed to pass this certification, use certain tools. I found some good tools like Pocket Prep. It's a nice gem for y'all out there. Pocket Prep that preps you for these certification exams, and they even have a pass guarantee. If you do all the prerequisites that you're supposed to do, and you fail still, they'll refund you your exam costs.
Dang, that's huge. All right. So I've seen, of all the things that I've seen, every time I hear somebody like, oh, cybersecurity, I don't think I've ever seen anybody make less than 6 figures. So I think for anybody out there looking, for some more income, definitely sounds like something, I'd be interested in. Now, with that being said, though, is it more so W-2, or can you be like your own, can you 1099, or can you do this as an entrepreneur, or is it mostly W-2 work?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for 10 years professionally now. I have bounced around multiple different organizations, sometimes W-2, sometimes I'll contract out 1099, or you can be a W-2 contractor. There's a lot of different ways that you can come on board to an organization. It just depends on what that organization is looking for. Most organizations like to hire W-2 because they get the tax incentives for having you as a W-2 employee versus 1099. If you wanted to be your own entrepreneur, you can go study up cybersecurity and start your own cybersecurity business. This isn't like the medical field. There really isn't a lot of regulation. I do like to compare the cybersecurity field to, let's say, football. because there's so many different positions that you can play. Just like on a football team, there's different positions on the offense and defensive side. That's the same way it is in cybersecurity, that you have an offense and you have defense. You have organizations that are defending against these attackers, and then you have offensive members that could either be good guys or bad guys. Some organizations hire offensive people like myself to do the hacking as if they were a bad guy, so that way we can find any vulnerabilities that they may have in their systems and help them fix it before the bad guys actually exploit them. And that's just a little plug there. That's one of the many responsibilities that I have within my day-to-day responsibilities. Hacking is one of them.
So I've heard this before, and you know, if you can't answer, let me know. But I've heard a conspiracy that the antivirus people are the ones creating the viruses. Can you shed any light on that?
No, but do they benefit from the viruses and all the stuff that happens out there? Yeah, they're raking in big bucks, because the viruses per se, they're created by bad hackers. So what the hackers like to do is to say, if they're able to compromise your phone or your computer, what they'll do is they'll put what's called malware. It's a type of virus. There's many different types of viruses out there. They'll go ahead and deploy some type of malware onto your phone that could be for several different purposes. They could be just to exfiltrate data from your phone. It could be to be able to issue commands as you on the back end of your phone, to send text messages, or to access any other information, or to pivot into another organization that you may work for, or any resources that you have access to via your phone. Get your multi-factor authentication codes. You know, these viruses, it takes a professional to analyze them to understand what are they doing underneath the hood. What's the code that's actually running? And I say code, a lot of people might get turned off when I say by analyzing code when getting into cybersecurity, but majority of the positions in cybersecurity are what they call non-technical positions, where you're not actually in the weeds coding or doing some of those highly technical things. That a lot of the positions that are needed right now are people who have analytical minds that can do critical thinking and can study some of these high-level concepts and help organizations address the governance, risk, and compliance factor of what the organization faces. Because there's plenty of legal frameworks out there and private frameworks that enforce organizations to have to put certain people, processes, and technology in place to protect their data and services. Now, that could be just for the organization, or it can be for the everyday consumer.
Gotcha. So I always like to talk about, you know, the adversity of it all, because a lot of times people think that being successful is easy, right? They think that everything is just a straight uphill shot, and they don't know that we actually go through some crap, right? A lot of us have gone through some crap, and if you haven't gone through some crap, you at some point you will go through some crap. So I want to hear first from the fighting side, actually, like, was there any adversity that you ever went through, you know, that maybe even you questioned? I know you said you took a 7-year hiatus, so like, is there any other obstacles that you overcame, and how did you overcome that, and how did that turn you into what you are now, to like continue to overcome obstacles?
Man, I've been through a lot, and everybody has gone through something at some point, and if, like you said, if not, they will at some point. But I've been through a lot of trials and tribulations to get to where I am today. So when I run into individuals that think this is going to be easy, I got to wake them up, because it does take some hard work. You have to take the time to study. Now, me personally, when I was getting into the field, I didn't have the luxury to sit at home, have my parents pay for my room and board so I can just focus fully on school. You know, at 13 years old, I started working my first job to be able to support myself, to help out around the house. But I had my son at a very young age, at 20 years old, and just I had to work full time to support the family, and also put myself through school full time. It took me some time to finish school, but I had stopped going to school because I realized that I don't need to finish school to get in this field, and I broke into the field before I even finished finish my undergrad degree. I went back to accomplish it because I wanted to be the first one in my family to ever graduate from college, which was something that I felt like I had to do. But a lot of the trials and tribulations that I faced when breaking into the field was just not having a mentor, not having direction really. It's just studying. I felt like I was just in the dark and just hoping that one day it'll all work out. And eventually, after the years of navigating all the different areas of information that was out there, I was finally able to put it together. The light bulb went off, and that's when things really turned up. But as far as trials and tribulations, like once I got breaking into the field, a lot of interviews. I'm talking about for some of these jobs, you go through like 4 to 5 interviews. One could be a personal, one could be 2 to 3 could be technical with different people within that organization. And before I even got my first job officially in cybersecurity with another organization, I had went through hundreds of interviews. I put in thousands of applications. And if it's hard if you really don't have a network to leverage to get in the field, because a lot of these jobs are getting handed out by friends to friends, or a friend of a friend. So that was one of the biggest, I say, tribulations that I had. The hardest point about cybersecurity is getting that first job. Once you get the first one, the rest of them come like nothing. Yeah, so I mean, there's that trial and tribulations that I faced. There's others, like after I broke into the field, even though I knew I went out and got certifications on my own. I was doing freelance work before, and I knew I had the chops. I faced a lot of imposter syndrome, and that's very big in this field. And a lot of people get burnt out by it because they might be doing overworking because they feel like they're not doing enough or they're not contributing enough to the organization. Or they may not be confident enough to speak up during meetings when they know they have insight on a certain topic at hand. And I kind of used to fall in that position where I was the quiet guy, that I would only speak if I was like in a one-on-one scenario, so I always tried to stay unnoticed, just do enough to not be on anyone's radar. But if you want to make the big bucks in cybersecurity, I learned you have to be vocal. You have to be forward. You have to be well known within your organization. You have to be reaching out to the different stakeholders. You have to be proactive. You cannot be sitting back waiting to be told to do something, because you're the professional that they hired to handle those matters. So that was something that it took me some time. And coaching. I had some good coaches. Shout out to Forrest Kassler and Jason Juntanen. Those gentlemen there, I will forever thank them, because they took me under their tutelage and they taught me a lot. I thought I knew a lot already, but you learn. You never know everything, and that's the thing in this field. You will never know everything, and I always felt like I needed to know everything, and no one had ever told me you don't. Listen, everybody in this field, if they don't know something, you know what we do?
Google.
Exactly. we call ourselves professional Googlers, brother, because we don't take no for an answer. And if we can't find the information we're looking for, then we're going to put a plan in place to figure out how can we find the information we're looking for. And if there's like a gap or something within the field that you're seeing that, hey, there isn't really any documentation or what's called best practices or any frameworks to go off of, then you identified a gap. Now you have an opportunity to contribute to the whole community and provide that framework or insight so others can then collaborate and build on. But that was another trial and tribulation that I feel like it took me some time to deal with, that I'm just really breaking out of my shell. Now I'm actually being a little bit more vocal. I'm on social a lot more. I'm talking about what I do, because I really had to, because a lot of people used to think I'm just a scammer or something, like, what am I doing? But no, I work hard for a living. I don't have to look over my shoulder. I didn't do anybody wrong. I could sleep great at night.
Right. So, they say SCAM stands for still scared about money.
Yeah.
Right? No, still confused about money. Scam. So, with that adversity, do you think like fighting helped at all? Like adversity from that helped you out?
It was actually the opposite. Cybersecurity helped me with fighting, because that's why I went back to fighting, because in the hacking community specifically, there is from from an OSCP exam. This is called the Offensive Security Certified Professional. It's like it's made by forgot what the organization's name was, but they're well known for making hacking tools and training people on how to hack. And their motto is try harder, and that's something that a lot of hackers, even if you're not going for that certification, that we like to echo to new people that come into the field. Try harder. It's not trying to be, condescending or anything like that, but it just, when you face adversity, let's say if you've been engaged to hack a client and you really can't find anything, try harder. It doesn't mean just keep throwing spam and stuff at the keyboard. You have to start thinking outside the box, analyzing, doing some critical thinking to not just give up. And it was through all the adversity that I used to face when I was hacking organizations. Sometimes I couldn't get in easy on like the first day, because most organizations I can hack within 10 minutes of getting access to a network port, or from the parking lot. I've hacked countless governments.
Keep him out of here.
I've hacked countless governments, private organizations, from financial institutions to state, local governments, airplane manufacturers. I do work for a lot of different clients in different industries, and their networks and the technologies that they have are always different. So it's sometimes the stuff I've never been exposed to, that now I have to do research on this technology. I got to go look up the technical specifications, the manuals, the actual stuff that the engineers are using, and I got to reverse engineer what could I do to potentially take advantage of this technology. So it was through all that adversity, I was like, wow, like I really have learned to conquer my fears and adversity through here. And then that's when I was like, oh man, I was still a fan of fighting. I was watching UFC all the time. I was the guy on the couch, just like always coaching the guy through the TV. And then one day I was just like, I feel like I still got it. And I was honest with myself, and I was like, earlier when I was a younger kid, I had a lot of hype behind me to make it to the UFC. But to be honest, I wasn't giving the time, attention, and resources it really took to be successful. That I just hoped that my black athleticism was going to take me through that. But eventually, you meet guys who have been training with technique that may not be as athletic as you, but they have the technique down to the point where they can deal with you and they can nullify your athleticism. And that's what I dealt with at first. And, it kind of hit me with my confidence back then. And I kind of gained my confidence back through hacking. And I was like, if I could do this, and I'm facing some of the most technically challenging problems that there's only a very few select people that can do this type of stuff, I was like, I can fight. And, it was always still a passion to me. I always still had that itch to compete from wrestling, and I was like, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna give it a shot again, but this time I'm gonna be honest with myself and I'm gonna do it right. Just like how I set out to get multiple certifications. I have over 15 certifications to my name in cybersecurity. Most people barely ever get one. So I was like, if I could do this, put a plan into place, and actually hold myself accountable and execute the plan, there's no way that I cannot be successful. So when I started training again, I really held myself to a higher standard. When I say I'm going to train, I'm going to train. When I say I'm going to work out, I'm going to work out. And I started to see that translate into my performances. I train with some very high level guys that are in the UFC currently, guys that were UFC world champions, guys that were in other professional leagues like Bellator, PFL. And I give those guys problems. I hang with those guys. So it was another thing that kind of helped me get over that hump of the imposter syndrome that I faced in MMA. And it's just, ever since then, I was just like, wow, if I apply the same mindset that I do of try harder in cybersecurity to other areas of my life and hold myself accountable, there's no reason why I can't be successful at anything I choose to do. I tell myself I could do anything. It's just, do I want to do it?
And I seen you training with I think it was Jorge Masvidal after he was big for that like one hit, that quick knockout. I was like, oh man, I see Cedric over here training with him. That's huge.
So yeah, I fought for Jorge Masvidal for my first professional fight, and that was a night. I will never forget, right? I got a call, 2 weeks before my pro debut. I had been looking for a fight for quite some time, but I really couldn't find a fight. And it's not because I didn't want to fight, it's because other people didn't want to fight me. I was on a 6-fight win streak. And most people, they don't want to go high risk because, a loss could set you back a couple years. So I had got a call from my good training partner and coach, Sedric Louissaint. I trained with him out at Dark Wolf MMA. I'm so thankful for them because, when I started training again, I started with going back and learning jiu-jitsu and getting that hunger and just being around that camaraderie as a family. It really instilled that competitive spirit into me to keep going back even further. So he called me up. Actually, no, mistake. He texted me. He said, "Hey, I got a fight for you, but this is the guy. He's a national boxing champion. It's 2 weeks notice, and it's a weight class that I was actually I'm the small guy for." And then I found out he's also Bo Nickal's boxing coach. Bo Nickal, you look him up. Bo Nickal is a 3-time national wrestling champion, D1, well-known, millions of fans worldwide. And this guy's his boxing coach. And Bo Nickal's in the UFC, right? So I was like, I went out. I said I'll take the fight before even watching any film on him, because I'm not scared of no boxing. I'm not scared of nobody. If you bleed like I bleed, bro, we answer to the same person, whether you answer to him or not. But I believe that we answer to the same higher being. And we bleed the same way, we breathe the same way, we put our pants on one leg at a time the same way. 2 weeks notice, I got the notice that I could fight for Jorge Masvidal on a UFC Fight Pass card, streamed globally, worldwide. And I don't care, I'm gonna take that chance. I don't care if I'm the underdog per se, but I knew in my heart that I wasn't the underdog. He was the underdog, and I knew I was gonna beat the dog out of him. And I did. You people can look it up right now on YouTube. I bounced that man's head off the canvas multiple times, wrestled him. It was 3 rounds of straight domination. That boxing was nullified quick. But yeah, that was a night I'll never forget. The arena screaming, jumped out the cage after the fight, looked at Jorge Masvidal and told you, "See, don't play with me. You better book me again." That was literally what I was telling him. "You better book me again." I was screaming. Went down, dapped him up. Even after everybody left the arena, Jorge had told, Christian and other individuals I know around Jorge that he definitely wants to have me back. That was the most exciting fight of the night. After I fought, mostly everybody really left because me and Christian, we sold a lot of those tickets, on a short notice for that promotion. So that was something that, I'm forever thankful for Jorge Masvidal for putting on the show, the organization, and having me on the card, even though that, they were trying to feed me to the other guy. I set that guy's career back about like 2 years. He's back at the drawing board right now, trying to figure out how to wrestle, how to do whatever. He
might need to hit you up about this cybersecurity.
Yeah, I heard he's an entrepreneur too. It's crazy because I had heard him the night before the fight. We do interviews and stuff, right? And we were sitting in a hotel lobby while the UFC reporters were interviewing us, right? And he went right before me. So I hear him, they're asking him questions like, "What's your game plan? What's your prediction? What you think you're gonna do?" And he's saying he's gonna do this to me, he's gonna do that to me. He said he's gonna wrestle me, he's gonna do this. And I'm listening to him and I'm just laughing on the side, and I'm just like, okay, all right, we're gonna see tomorrow. And we saw
he off the canvas.
He didn't do nothing he wanted to do. Nothing.
Dang. So now that we're gonna take a drink before this next question.
Shoot, I'm about to join you too.
So Cat Williams really exposed some Hollywood things for us. Ooh. Is there any type of Illuminati type quid pro quo pro stuff going on in the UFC world or cybersecurity world?
I mean, there's quid pro stuff going on in almost every industry out there, man. There's cabals in all different types of industries. I would say, as far as cybersecurity, that quid pro quo there's organizations try to put protections in place from, people just giving business to their friends or contracting with friends, and they have certain processes in place to help avoid, the whole kickback situation, because then that really eliminates the fair market competition, which in turn ruins the economy for everybody. It's not a fair economy. It's just a few select people. If you know somebody, then you're already plugged in. Like the other people didn't even stand a chance. Yes, there's that type of stuff that go around. There are laws against that type of stuff in certain situations, especially when you're dealing with governments. You got to go through a certain process to procure services and stuff like that. But when it comes to like hiring your friend or something, sometimes a manager might have the complete discretion to go hire their buddy of theirs. But organizations try to put in certain processes in place to avoid that. MMA, completely different ball game. Completely different ball game. At the end of the day, it's about putting butts in the seats. So if you can come in with your own following and reputation, then you can kind of leverage, your following and stuff to get a lot farther ahead than someone who's been in the industry for way longer than you, may have way more fights than you. That's why you see some guys who have one fight and they make it to the UFC. And that's because they got a big name or a nice following of some sort. But yeah, there is that quid pro stuff that goes around, but it's all back rooms. It's all back rooms about who you know. Because at the end of the day, in order to get to like the UFC, someone has to speak about you in some room, And sometimes you might only get spoke about in that room if you sign a contract with a certain individual to be your manager, or you sign with a certain agency that has the connections to be able to put your name up on the docket, to be able to say, oh, this is one of the guys we need to look at bringing in, or we need to scout this guy, we need to sign this guy right now. To have someone fighting for you and vetting for you. If you don't really have representation in the community, it's a lot harder to break in. It's a lot harder to break in because you got to break in by the people. The people got to be saying, we want to see this guy in the UFC, for the executives to really notice, if you don't have an agent out there making phone calls for you and talking on your behalf.
Gotcha. So listen, people, he said this earlier. It's all about who you know. You don't have to do nothing strange for no change. If you're in a position, go ahead, invest into communities. That's one thing that I did to scale up. Just, get into this community, get into that community, get into this community. With these community comes, networks and people that can vouch for you. They like you. Another tip that I like to give my people is, sometimes you don't have to go for the alpha. Sometimes, a lot of times, just go for the right hand, right? You get in good with them, and then they notice you, and then they're going to mention you to the alpha. So don't always think you have to go to the top. So as we transition here toward the end, I got one more question that kind of goes according to that. Have you had any issues with you being like a melanated man? Like, have you ever had any difficulties in UFC or even in the cybersecurity space?
I wouldn't say that I had issues as a black man, as a minority in the industry. Because I don't know, because that stuff, those backroom biases towards maybe my gender, race, sexual orientation, that stuff happens in the background. There are laws against that to prevent that, but you really don't know. But I personally would say I have been fortunate to never experience that or have felt that. But I do know other individuals who have, and that have felt belittled because of their race or sexual orientation, strictly because they might bring the same idea or same work quality as another coworker who just doesn't happen to be a minority, but it's received a different way. It's praised another way. So I have heard feedback from other people in the industry personally. People online out there talk about that. There are different types of cultures. And that's one thing that I try to preach to anybody that I train to get into the field is, money is just one factor. You need to make sure that it's psychologically and emotionally a good fit for you for wherever you're working, because if you feel like you hate your life, you're going to get burnt out, right? You want to feel respected for the work you do. You want to feel valued for the work you do. And if you feel like you're not being valued for the work you do, you have to start peeling back the onion and assessing to see, is it really my work quality? And is it really me as a professional? and try to see exactly where is it stemming from. That's my advice to anybody who in any industry. If you feel like you're being belittled because of your sexual orientation, race, or gender.
Gotcha. So with anybody who wants to come make the big bucks, right? You mentioned you have a community earlier. If I'm somebody that doesn't want to put 1,000 applications in, if I'm somebody that doesn't want to go to Google and YouTube University and just be all over the place, tell us a little bit about your community. Like what type of mentorship do you have? What can we expect from that?
So with our program at Show Up Shout Out Security, we provide cybersecurity mentorship and training. Those are two separate parts. So on the first part of mentorship, we pair students up with experts who have actually been in the field. They're practicing in the field. They're doing what that student wants to do. So they can give candid feedback on where the candidate is at, what they need to work on, advice on any career paths that they're interested in, and giving them that real feedback. All right, you want to do this? Well, you really got to study up this, because this is what you need to know in order to be able to perform the roles and responsibilities. On the second part is we also provide the training for that. After we come up with that plan and identify what that student is going after, not only that, we provide continuing professional education, because within this industry, you're only as good as your skills. Technology is always changing. When you come in this field, you're agreeing to be a student for however long you're in this field. You have to be willing to constantly be investing in yourself to learn the new things that are out there. A part of our program is we do provide that continuing education, so it's a lifetime thing. Even if you come to our program for one program, you have access to that material and all the updated material that ever comes out associated with that program. So right now we have a 100% employment rate, which I'm very proud to boast, and that's because not everybody's welcome in my program. I'm not taking Joe Schmo off the street. You have to show to me that you're actually truly interested, that you have the curiosity, that you have the willingness to learn, and that you're coachable. A lot of people that I've dealt with in the past aren't really coachable or open to criticism, that they might take it personal. When it comes to the professional setting, you have to be open to criticism, because you may think that you're doing something the best way possible, but you may not see something from another perspective that you missed. So you have to be open to that coaching, and that's primarily what we do, is that we prep students on the soft skill side of things too, because you could have all the technical skills in the world, but if you can't communicate the value that you bring to the organization to them, you ain't never gonna get nowhere. You'll probably get let go. And you could be the person who's doing majority of the work, but another person is so forward facing that they're getting all the credit for the work that's happening. So that's where we also help out with too, is just teaching you those soft skills that's going to really help you become a leader in this field and excel your career quickly.
So even higher than a knowledge base. That's
exactly
that's important.
Because if you truly know the game and you understand it, you can scale your cybersecurity career to over $250,000 within a year.
Okay. All right. Shoot. So last question I got for you, man, is how do we find you? Right.
And I'm on. You can find me on Instagram at Show Up Shout Out. You can find our mentorship program at Show Up Shout Out Security. You can also take a look at susos.co. That's the company website, susos.co. But mostly you can catch me on LinkedIn too. That's where I do my professional networking. Sedric Louissaint, you can catch me on there. But I'm pretty attentive to all my social medias, but LinkedIn is the primary. If it's something professional that you want to communicate about or get in touch with me about, LinkedIn is the way to go. But you can follow me on social to keep up on the MMA side and on the cybersecurity.
So y'all, I've known Cedric now for I think like 3 years, damn near going at this point. I've rented his cars, been to his houses, actually multiple houses. So definitely, good person, educated, knows what he's talking about. You can clearly see that he knows what he's talking about. Any last things that you want to put out? Did we miss anything that you want to put out to the world?
Honestly, there's just a simple advice for anyone who's looking to accomplish anything in their life is just try harder. Don't accept failure. If it's something that you want to do, logically plan that out. Don't just say, hey, I want to do this, and then you don't take action. And that's one of the biggest things that I'll see with people that I work with sometimes and I have to provide coaching, is that people say they're going to do something and they don't do it. Why? What's the point? And then when you hold that person accountable, 9 times out of 10, they may feel offended. Yeah, things happen in life, right? But how many times were those things happen in life really prevented you? Or could you really have allocated your time better? Or is it a time management thing? So it's really to take action. If it's something that you're interested in, take action. Whether if it's not even cybersecurity, anything you do in life, if you want to do it, you can do it. You just need to actually plan it out accordingly and execute on that plan. I'm not saying every step along the way is going to be perfect. There's going to be trials and tribulations sometimes. Just try harder.
Try harder, man. So there y'all have it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you or anyone you know are interested in some real good income, then y'all are gonna have to hit up the man right here. So I'll see y'all next time. Awesome stuff, bro.